black-on-black crime, drug abuse, teen pregnancy, and now violence in the schools. Everyone is concerned. Hi, I'm Jackie Hall.
And I'm Harold Anthony.
Our guest today on City Line is Dr. Janet Stevenson, and she'll talk about these issues from a psychological point of view.
And on the lighter side, well, you hear him every day. Now you'll get a chance to meet him up close and personal. I'm speaking of none other than those zany radio personalities from V103, Sandy Mallory and Randy Dennis. That's coming up next on City Line.
Welcome to City Line. As we said, our guest today is Dr. Janet Stevenson, who is a counseling psychologist. Welcome to City Line.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You know, from the top of the show, we talked about some very serious issues: drug abuse, teen pregnancy, violence in the schools, which of course is on everybody's mind right now, and black-on-black crime. What's going on? I mean, this is just phenomenal.
I think what I see more than anything else is a loss of hope in the ability to impact upon your life to meet your needs. We're doing it as a person, as a family system, as a community system, and it's just spreading out. The ripple effect is enormous.
Now, from a psychological point of view, is this a sign of a people just crying out for help?
I'm
or
really
in pain?
I'm glad you put it that way. I think it is a cry for help. I know when I work with kids, what we see first is the kids acting out in an attempt to distract the parents' attention from the real problem. Please look over here at me. I'm the one in trouble. Help me, and then we'll all get help. And that gets a lot of attention to a family system. We have our children acting out all over the place, trying to say to someone, please help me. We're all in trouble. Please come and save us.
Why aren't the parents hearing that cry from children?
The parents are crying out just as strongly as the children are, because the parents inside are trying to heal a child within them that they can't make touch with, they can't make contact with themselves. So we have children raising children, and then we have all our children crying out for help. None of us feel like we can actually impact to do anything on our lives.
You know, in preparing for the show, and you know the title is Race Pride, Race Hatred. At the core of this, though, of the problems that we're seeing, not only in Baltimore, but all over the country, is there an indication that black folk really don't like themselves?
I think there's more an acceptance of an illusion that's been put on us by an outside system that says we should not like ourselves. In a lot of ways, we have accepted a victimization posture that gives credence and power to double messages and illusionary messages from the outside. And since we haven't figured out exactly how to question them, or we've lost those structures in the past that allowed us to question them, we buy them. And we aren't even aware that they're in our skin, they're in our blood system now.
What do you mean by double messages?
Well, one of the ones that I talk about a lot is just the use of the word nigger. If someone other than me uses that word with me, someone other than a black person, then it's an insult, it's an outrage, and it's a call to arms. However, a black person uses that with another black person, it's a sign of affection. That's confusing, especially to children. It's the same word. What's the message here?
You know, in my class, I hear my students responding to the whole issue of calling themselves black. Some of them are very, very uncomfortable with even using the term black. Is that also a double message?
It is a very real double message, because in a lot of the society and a lot of the messages in the media and a lot of the messages in the literature and in other parts of the system, black is negative, black is evil, black is bad, black is wrong. Therefore, how can black be good at the same time? And if my identity is tied up with something that's so confusing, then who am I separate from my blackness? My identity is all tied to this thing that's caught up in all these double messages. I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm about. All those around me who look like me don't know who they are, don't know what they're about. Is there no answer to this? And the only answer that seems available is the one from the outside, and that's confusing.
And so if you don't like the term black,
right,
and yet that's how you're labeled, then what does that do to you internally?
It creates a confusion. It creates a core that has a seething rage in it that's fed by other sources of rage going on in your life as an individual. And the result is that you have this confusion that you can't make sense of. There's another message that comes from within our own community that says, but black is beautiful. but wait a minute, I've got this heavy message here that says black is not beautiful, black is evil, black is voodoo, black is bad, black is whatever. How can black be beautiful and bad at the same time? I don't understand that. Even in the use of the word bad, bad is good and bad is bad.
Exactly.
What's going on here?
So what does the person then do? What does a black person then do with that kind of confusion swirling about him or her?
What I see and hear black people doing is accepting the role of the victim, and I say that cautiously as well as deliberately. If I'm a victim, I have to strike out against that person or that entity that I see is hurting me. Therefore, there's a lot of striking out against the powers that be. There's a lot of striking out against authority figures, authority objects. There's a lot of striking out against myself and other issues that I need to reject to bring some sense of clarity to a confusing topic.
Now, speaking of the striking out and the confusion therein, what about what's happening in the school systems now with so many acts of violence and murders and rapes, and then the case of sodomy? Striking out again, the anger.
When I'm working with kids in a family, and I'll use a family example to answer this, if I see a kid who's in trouble and who is concerned about a family that's in trouble, the first place I'll see that child acting out that pain or that rage is in the school system. The school has readily available authority figures against whom defiance can occur with some reward and some punishment. So if I see children acting out in the school system, I don't necessarily look first to the school for the solution. I look to the home for the solution. I also look to the home for some definition of at least some parts of what the problem is. And I think in our system, we may need to start looking both inside our homes as well as inside the home community to see what our children are trying to tell us, what our children are trying to call attention to when they strike out against what is a real clear loss of contact with the humanity. If our children are coming to school having their humanity having been violated at home, and then they violate humanity in the school system, we need to start hearing what that's saying, both about ourselves as well as about our children.
Okay, once we start hearing what they're saying, then how should we move on that to impact on it?
If we know that our children are saying, I'm terrified that my humanity has been taken away from me, we can start restoring that. We can start meeting the needs of our children in ways that we aren't currently doing, and we can stop the buying into the illusion that we are victims, that we are helpless, that we aren't able to do anything. We can restore the hope that has always been a part of our people.
When we come back, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we need to talk as well about the whole idea and concept of values and value systems and where they are in the scheme of things in 88. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to City Line, where our topic is race pride, race hatred, and we're talking with Dr. Janet Stevenson. Before the break, we talked about some of the violence in the schools, and we just saw the extent of at least last year's occurrences. This year is not starting off any better than last year. Again, the whole issue of values and the value system.
I was really struck when you showed the stats that the second highest incident was in thefts and vandalism. A theft is stealing something from someone else that you feel entitled to. If you feel like you don't have sufficient in your life to feel valued or to feel sufficient in yourself, to feel adequate in yourself, to feel good enough as a person, then you may choose to take from someone else for a couple of reasons. One is that it calls great attention to yourself because, look, I took something. I have asserted some ability to have some sense of power in my life. I'm in control of something, exactly. But also, you have called attention to yourself, which means that if you follow a systems approach to this issue, then you ripple out to see what else you have called attention to.
Does this mean that the home is not providing the value system, and so that the young people are making up their own or having mixed values?
I don't want to set up parents to be blamed for this. I think the community as a whole has lost a sense of its own humanity, lost a sense of definition. Somehow or another, with the shift from segregation to integration and then all of the anger that came as a result of that, I think as a community we have lost our focus. We have said that we need someone to come in and tell us who we are, someone to come in and tell us what we're about, when the goal now actually is to shift our attention to within ourselves. The value of our life occurs within our life, inside ourself. The quality of an oppressed life is lived within the life, not from outside the life. And the quality of a free life is also lived inside. If I don't feel a sense of freedom inside myself, I'm not going to reflect a sense of freedom outside myself.
Now, talking about how one feels, now when we look at the statistics for the black on black crime, it is the leading cause of death for black men from 15 to 34. Killing someone who looks like you. Is that race hatred?
It's a displacement of a hatred of the self. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's a black male who frequently says to me to take time to look at our black men, because they really are in much more trouble than any of us give them credit for. They probably represent the most disenfranchised and the most disempowered part of our community as a people. And when we don't hear that cry for help, what we hear instead is a rejection, I would say this, of the self. I can't kill myself because that would be suicide, and that's harmful to me, but I can kill those who look like me because that's a sort of a suicide, and it's a way of taking care of this pain and this rage that's seething inside of me. It has to be expressed, it has to be vented. I can't express it against those that are more powerful than me because I might get hurt and kill myself, but I can't express it here because nobody cares anyway.
What's the
solution there? And it continues the loss of humanity that I was talking about a few minutes ago.
What's the solution there? How do you even
the first solution is to
stop
buying the illusion that comes from outside. We are not a powerless people. I am not a powerless person, and whether somebody tells me that or not does not make me powerless, does not make me a victim unless I accept the role.
You know, it seems to me as we look at all of these issues that at the core of it as well is the whole idea of nurturance.
Yes.
A lot of it seems to be missing, and so people are outside doing things to make themselves feel better when inside they don't feel good at all. What about the whole issue of nurturance, even in terms of teen pregnancy, for instance?
Yeah, actually in teen pregnancy I see three ways in which our girls in particular are crying out for love and for nurturance. One is that if I give this baby to my mother, then maybe she will love me again. But a second one is that I have learned that sex equals love. I have watched it, I have seen it, and that must be the answer because I haven't seen any other answer. So if I have sex with this boy, then I will feel loved, even if it's for a moment. And that is the ultimate illusion, I think, in a lot of ways. But also, if I have this baby, I will have someone to love. And my immaturity will not allow me to see that there's more to this baby, there's more to parenting than simply making a baby and giving me someone to love. But there's another piece to it, which is that this need for nurturance is as pervasive in our psyche, and our community psyche, and our self-psyche as any of the other issues. The loss of humanity is pervasive. I hear it in the double messages that I hear parents giving to their children as early as a year old, as early as 2 and 3 years old. These confusing messages about not having a value, not having a humanity, not having a life that's worth anything.
Now, when you look across the spectrum of all of these problems, only the four that we've talked about today, the school violence and the teen pregnancy and the black on black crime and so forth, what do we do to stop it? What do we do to turn it around? How do we begin to resolve the issues?
To begin with, we have to have a reason to make the change. And as long as we're busy fighting some illusionary force outside of us, we have no reason to change because we'll just stay on the path of least resistance, which is to maintain a status quo. Our status quo right now is very painful. After we stop buying into the illusion, the second thing we do is to look inside ourselves and heal ourselves first. Once we are healed, then it will radiate out, and we will find that we do more loving acts with sincerity. This is a Christian society, the American culture, and yet the double-bind message that comes from that alone is one that supports hypocrisy. We can stop that.
What role can the community play? What role can the government play? It has to have a stake. If we don't stem the tide, then we're talking about several generations lost forever.
The role that the government plays and the role that the powers that be or the systems that be play are determined by us. We don't yet know what we want them to do. If we come together as a person, as a family, and as a community, then we'll be able to tell them what it is that we need. We will need resources from them that allow us to feel pride in ourselves. It may mean that we will need to mandate that we do need more taxes so that we can put more security in our school. Or we may need to have more services in our community mental health clinics so that we can work on those issues of personal pain.
Briefly, is there hope?
Oh, of course there's hope. All these issues that our children are acting out for us are statements of hope. They're calling attention to a problem. They're asking us as the adults to please help solve the problem.
Okay, Dr. Janet Stevenson, thank you for coming by. We didn't resolve them, but I think we've put a new perspective on the issues. Harold Anthony is up next with Sandy Mallory and Randy Dennis of V103.
To hear him, it's as simple as a twist of the knob on your radio, so I figured I'd give you a chance to see him up close and personal. I'm speaking of none other than the sassy Sandy Mallory, and of course that morning madman, the mouth that roared, none other than Mr. Randy Dennis. Thank you both for spending some time with me on City Line.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
It's a pleasure.
Before we go any further, Sandy, I have to ask you, it's been a while since I've seen you. Your hairstyle has changed. Is this a fashion statement, a religious statement, ethnic statement? What is it?
It's Sandy's statement.
Okay.
Actually, it was something I said I was going to do all my life. I said at a certain point in my life, I definitely was going to lock. I lock for cultural reasons, for personal reasons, and because I enjoy the hairstyle. I think it is befitting and a positive image for all black women.
Okay, and it looks very lovely on you.
Thank you very much.
Now let's get down to the business of what you both make your bread and butter on. Let's talk about the DJ business. You both are so comfortable in your positions. Obviously, you had some ideas before you started DJing, and that's what you wanted to do. How about you, Sandy?
Well, actually, I kind of like fell into it and then really made a career out of it because I was originally studying English education. I wanted to teach folks how to speak properly. But I had someone that thought a lot of me that worked in the English department that kept saying, Sandy, there are no jobs for English teachers, there are no jobs for English teachers. And I was using radio as a minor. Well, I decided to flip-flop and used radio as a major, and so radio, television, and film became my major, education became my minor, and the next thing you know, there I was.
Okay, well, Randy, you've been in it, what, about 15 years now?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm almost the grandfather here, but I've been at it for a while.
Yeah.
Actually, it's something I wanted to do.
From the time you were little?
Yeah, as a kid, I used to listen to the old timers on the radio, and I would look at the radio and say, my God, what are they doing? How are they coming through there? And I was just so curious, but before I actually saw a studio, I would emulate what they were doing. As I heard it, I had this little Mattel recorder, and they say, I got my finger on the trigger, I'm getting ready to pull on some of the hottest 45 and LPs around. This is number 11111. I said, oh, wow.
I can do that.
I can do that. Push the button. I got my fingers on the trigger, get ready to put on some of the hottest 45 and LPs around. This is number 1. I listened to it back and said, well, that didn't sound like them, but I'll get there. And it was a childhood dream.
And now here you are.
Yeah, well,
famous
in a roundabout way, I sort of lost the dream and I stumbled back across it in college.
If you look at the history of radio personalities, particularly in Baltimore, you very rarely hear of anyone retiring from radio. Is this a cause of concern for either of you? You know, the fact that nobody stays in radio 35, 40 years, retires with the gold watch and this, that, and the other.
Can you retire from radio? It just goes on and on and on and on and on. No, I don't think you want to retire. I think you want to just do the next thing, whether it's open up your own production company, whether it's do voiceovers, whether it's to do industrial film work or something. I don't think you want to retire. I just think you want to move on with your career.
Well, as far as opening up your own production company, Randy, you're already making steps in that direction, aren't you?
Yes, I am. It's funny that you bring that up.
And I have a card.
Yeah, no. I have a production company, Randy Dennis Productions. My wife and I built a recording studio, and we're also into managing groups. And you know, I don't want to say too much to conflict with my contract, but it's something that one must do in order to prepare yourself for like life after radio. You know, life goes on. I don't want to be one that when the microphone is taken away, and generally that's how it is for black radio personalities. We don't have as many options as our white personalities, but And when it's taken away, a lot of them are lost. And it's so sad. You see them and, you know, see, he was really great. I remember the day when he was, he was on top of the world. But now, nowhere. He had nothing to fall back on, didn't really plan for the future. It was only into the immediate, right now. Hey, I'm happening. It's on, I'm making money, the women like me, hey.
And then when your numbers drop, it's all over, baby. It was nice having you have a nice day.
But so it's good to have something to fall back on and prepare for the future.
It must be a maddening pace, you know, while you still have your jobs and everything's going on. Is it everything people imagine? You know, I'm talking about the big cars, movie stars, loud bars, you know,
all
the whole deal.
Well, all of the above, yeah.
It's the truth. It's all of the above.
But you know the saying, all that glitters is not gold.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, you're both married. Is it a strain on your marriage for either of you? I mean, the fan adulation and things like that. Is it a strain?
In my case, it's really not, because my husband is in entertainment, so it's not so hard for me. A lot of people say, how can you keep the pace and the schedule that you do? Well, somebody else really in entertainment understands that you don't really sleep long, you don't stay home long, and you're always out and on the go. But that's what you have to do to keep your career going. It's the same thing for him. So I suppose it's, as he is as understanding of me, I have to be as understanding of him.
How does Sam react to you? Sam is your wife.
Sam is my wife. Please clarify that. It's a big hectic. Unlike Joe, her husband, who's in the entertainment field, it's something that brought her. I just threw her into it, you know. Here it is, and she said, "Wow, I mean, you're not home. You're this and that. You got to be all these things to all these people, and you know, I don't get much of you to, you know, what isn't anything sacred anymore. I want you." And she's a great person, and I'm really trying to compromise, but it's hard. It's hard, but you know, we're getting there. We're getting there.
How about some of the rough spots? I mean, I'm sure you've had like entertainers that you have interviewed or spent some time with.
Well, most of the entertainers,
or fans.
I've had, well, all of the above. I've had some good stories and some bad stories. I've had some very interesting stories because they said all the weirdos, for some reason or they come out looking for me. I don't know if there's a sign that says Sandy attracts the weirdos or she accepts the weirdos, but I've had some strange things happen to me.
What happened?
Okay.
Tell the truth.
Here's a true story. One time a young man was released from a hospital, a state hospital.
Broken leg?
No, I think he had some psychological problems.
Both of us not in the war.
He was listening to his radio, and he said that I said it was a national holiday, don't go to work, and he came up to the station to meet me and give me a whole bunch of grief. Needless to say, I didn't meet him, but management carefully escorted him back to the door and sent him somewhere else.
How about you, Randy, very quickly?
Yeah, I've had strange things happen to me. Are we talking about artists or?
Either or.
Either or? Well, we don't have a lot of time. I wanted to tell you about the time I fell asleep working midnight to 6. And the police had to break in order to wake me up because I was sprawled across the console, you see, and the phones do not ring, they flash. Everybody was trying to
but not
wake up
bright enough,
Randy
obviously.
Dennis, and they all lined up, including the coroner and the sergeant, and they touched the body, and I rose up. And they all started laughing.
Well, let's just hope nothing like that happens in the future. We can continue looking forward to hearing you both on the air. Congratulations to you both and success to both of you.
Right.
Thank you very
We're
much.
going to skip over to the community calendar right now. We're going to feature the latest from Nancy Wilson. It's called Quiet is the Fire. We'll be right back.
Sweep through me, never like this have I felt before. I don't care who knows how good his love is when he lights my fire. Have I felt until you. Never like this have I felt before. Ecstasy that makes my head go spinning from love's warm desire. Never like this have I felt before. Quiet is the fire inside of me. Quiet is the fire that only you can see. Quiet is the fire you've set me.
Glad to see that lady making such a strong comeback. You know, folks, I just want to remind you before we let you go that if you have any suggestions or any show ideas or show topics, anything you'd like to see discussed on City Line, don't hesitate to drop us a postcard or a letter. Remember, mail your letter to City Line, WJZ, Television Hill, Baltimore, Maryland, 21211. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Jackie, next week.
Next week, we have the first black female astronaut, Dr. Mae Jemison, who will be our guest.
And joining me is a certifiable madman, Mr. Roy Ayers, king of the keyboards. He'll be here. That's all next Sunday on City Line. Until then, I'm Harold Anthony.
I'm Jackie Hall. Enjoy your day.
By control run through me.
Harold Anthony's clothes provided exclusively by Reamer's Limited of Baltimore, where fashion is never out of style.
Never